We're all moto guys, grew up in motocross, and Brian Lunniss was the guy, the mechanic for Bob Hanna, for Ricky Johnson, for Donnie Hansen, of course Bradshaw. He was the world's most famous motocross mechanic. So even if he'd say hi to you, that was kind of cool. It was like he'd being as popular as a rider would be.
Had a lot of great mechanics. Started with Brian in the early 90s and was approached by Keith McCarty that mentioned to me about Brian, and I knew where Brian came from, obviously from Ricky Johnson and Bob Hanna. I was a little scared because I knew Brian's credentials and I knew how stern of a guy he was, and knew that he wasn't only just a mechanic. You know, he was a trainer, he was a motivator, he was a guy that was focused and that could keep somebody like me, being 16 years old, I needed that. It was something that I really, really needed, was my best years.
The more I worked with Brian, I realized that he'd accomplished things that probably, I don't know if anybody else has. That he was an incredibly successful championship-winning mechanic in the motocross industry. Then he went to Indy cars and was a very successful suspension technician in IndyCar. Then he went to NASCAR and was a championship-winning suspension engineer for Bobby Labonte at Joe Gibbs Racing. And I can't think of anybody else that's done that. And now, you know, I'd consider him a championship winner here with everything he's done for us.
We communicate a lot. I'm very much in contact with him a lot, and I love hearing about anything to do with product. It keeps me informed. And then we talk about just general things, whether it's life or just things going on in the business that he kind of sees and wants to make sure that I know about. It's a relationship I really enjoy.
To know how he thought outside of the box and every way possible to win, and to pick out every little bitty thing that would make the big difference in the end, he was so good at.
Having Brian, you know, leading the charge, we couldn't listen attentively enough to what he had to say about how to improve the product. We're dealing with a glove that was used for motocross, and now we're going to work on these intricate parts. We're going to try to take carburetors apart, you know, or in Brian's case, he was a shock expert. So he knew everything to do with what to do with that glove to give you dexterity and protect your fingers.
And then when he came in-house for us full-time, and I got to work with him for a while, then I got to see the reason why he was so successful in racing, because he does the same thing for us every day.
The first mechanics glove started as a trials glove that I picked up in Italy, at Axo, Italy. And it almost looked like a golf glove. It had no padding on it, nothing top or bottom. It was just for trials riding. This was all about the same time that Axo started racing seriously. It was the beginning of our relationship with Bradshaw, with the Peak team, with Mitch Payton. And Brian, being the mechanic of Bradshaw then, was very instrumental in getting us Bradshaw. Series 29 glove was our very first glove. It was a glove with a piece of plastic on the top that was, nobody had ever seen anything like that before. Designed by Kenny Safford, who still works for us this day. We all started selling. We kind of set the world on fire with that product. That kind of started everything. We really got a chance to now move into a big part of what mechanics use their hands for. This is the real stage now. And the testing and the development was hardcore and as true as it gets. Again, because it had to work on Sunday during the pit stops. Brian is the chief of R&D, which is so important in our business. His job and his role at Mechanics Wear is super significant. We sell a very expensive line of products. It needs to live up to its hype and its price tag. So when we tell you what they do, they better do that.
Several years ago, we noticed that there were not very many awards that recognized mechanics or pit crews, anything beyond drivers, owners, crew chiefs. So we went to NASCAR and we created a Most Valuable Pit Crew Award that's been awarded every year for several years, voted on by crew chiefs, the peers, on who has the best performing pit crew throughout the year. One year, Brian Lunniss and I were walking around the pits at the Anaheim Supercross, and we felt like maybe we needed to do something like that to recognize significant achievement in that industry, which really helped us get the Mechanics Wear brand started. So we created a brand new trophy. When we were discussing the award, and I was explaining to some of the other people who are in the building that weren't around when we did the other one several years ago, what the criteria was, and they said, well, you mean a guy like Brian Lunniss. So that's why the new award will be known as the Brian Lunniss Lifetime Achievement Award, because if you're in racing, you know who Brian is and you know what he's been able to accomplish, and he's the epitome of the award. We want to give back to those people in racing, all forms of racing, that helped us build the best products for mechanics. When you put his name on it, his success, his determination, his drive, you know exactly why that person's getting the award then. It describes what it is. Brian was kind of a hero of mine, and I got to see, working side by side with him, how he was so successful in all the other forms of racing because he applied that same thing here at Mechanicswear, and has just been an incredible asset to the entire company, and in specific our racing and product development program.
And to think back when Brian was talking about this glove and what he wanted to do with it, I can't imagine if it would have ever been anything if it wouldn't have been for Brian.
This thing could have gone any direction. It could have remained an accessory, just another product. But to think where it's gone is it's mind-boggling for us, and we're right in the middle of it. And without Brian, it doesn't get that far.